This is from one of our Evil Party 3.5 campaigns. I'm playing a kind of sociopathic minotaur barbarian that isn't against eating sentient creatures. I mean, food is food, right? We have me, a human cleric of Mercule, a drow rogue, and a dwarf bard. We're sneaking through hostile territory, avoiding enemy patrols, and camp for the night. The cleric is our party leader and has decided no fire and no noise because we want to limit the chance we get spotted while camping. First watch nothing, second watch was the bard though, and that's when shit hits the fan. We three all get woken up, perception rolls, to our bard strumming along on his lute singing a song because he was bored and needs to practice. Cleric jumps his shit, tells him to put the instrument up and be quiet so we don't get found out, and we all go back to bed. The bard passes a note to the DM. Perception roll time. Somehow I'm the only one that makes it, and I wake up to the bard again playing his lute and singing. I get up, snatch the lute out of his hands and break it in half and tell him to shut up and be quiet for the rest of his shift, and if he wakes me up again he'll regret it. The bard passes another note to the DM and we all sigh because we know what's going on, we think, and there are a couple of out-of-game comments about the bard, and the player's intelligence. Somehow I'm the only one that makes the perception roll. I wake up to the smell of roasting meat, a roaring fire, and the bard strumming on a different lute, singing away. That does it. I snatch up my axes, roar as I enter rage and charge the bard. Of course this wakes everyone else up and they get to witness the death of our beloved bard. He of course wants us to resurrect him. A vote amongst the party decides to deny him that option, so instead of burying him, or just leaving his body, I strip him, toss his belongings to the rest of the party, and then run him through the fire a few times to cleanse the body and proceed to have breakfast before we get underway. In one of our more epic campaigns, my friends and I used a brutal homebrew system to try and recreate a D&D type setting. Our party consisted of 3 characters, Felmorn the Fickle/Magnificent. My friend and I still disagree on which title was more accurate, a gnome arcanist, Benjamin Blackfoot, a halfling warrior who was more like a warrior ninja. His people had a secret military force that no one knew about, and my character Gunter Stellenhouse, a dwarf fighter/cleric mage. As with all magical powers in this homebrew system, specific spells fell under a broader power that was vague in limits and was meant to serve more as a theme for your various powers. If you wanted a new spell, you had to justify its existence within the scope of your power. As a dwarf, Gunter started with a level in Earth Magic, and I chose 3 powers initially: Earth Sight, Move Earth, and Healing. I argued with the DM that you could mend broken bones and heal open wounds by manipulation the earth elements that exist with the body. We only had 3 characters and no dedicated healer, so the DM allowed the spell. Eventually, Stellenhouse would evolve new powers such as Detecting Lies, Thanks, Tough, Enhanced Strength, Stone Skin, etc. All the classics. Now, because this was an untested homebrew system, my powers ended up derailing our DM's plans on numerous occasions just through creative uses of my powers. In one of our first dungeons, Gunter used Earthsight to scout ahead and identify all the twists and turns that lay before us and easily locate a sunken hallway leading to the major plot point within said dungeon. He had intended for us to thoroughly explore this complex filled with large spiders and traps, but we cut a beeline right to the most interesting part, literally making a doorway through a wall to reach it. This hidden hallway led to a trapped room filled with drow who had been encased within by my people years ago utilizing cursed earth magics. Having survived through cannibalism and lichen growth to create air, their leader had prophesied that one day a dwarf would come to set them free and end the war between our peoples. On another occasion, we were trying to get the incapacitated demigod Timid back to his patron city of Mordic when we were ambushed by trolls and goblins. The lead troll was a hulking monstrosity with poison fangs and claws. Turns out he was the one who had poisoned Timid, so getting hit by him would spell certain death for any of us. I tried to use my Move Earth power to create a massive teardrop-shaped rock collapse on the troll's head. Thanks to an exploding critical, a process that might have taken too long to pull off happened very quickly, and the dwarfs of Mordic hailed Gunter as a local hero. But my favorite instance happened when Gunter got word from some dwarf refugees that their township was being beset by the undead. Not wanting to see any more of his dwindling people die off, Gunter rallied an expedition force of brave soldiers and headed off to save the township. This was supposed to be a quick solo side mission since the other party members were busy doing other things with their downtime. Our band of 13 dwarfs, including Gunter, eventually learned from a ranger near the town that a necromancer had set up shop on a cliffside overlooking the forest near the dwarf town. Doing all we could to avoid the skeletons that now inhabited the forest, our band, with the help of the ranger, snaked around the backside of the tower to launch a surprise attack. The DM had put a ton of work detailing this tower, traps and creatures and puzzles on every level. The whole thing was made of bones harvested from the necromancer's victims. Gunter, however, had other ideas. Previously, it had been established in the racial lore of the dwarfs that every member of the race possessed some talent with earth magic, and they would frequently take part in mass rituals that bound them together and allowed them to combine their power. Gunter gathered his band in half circle outside the tower and, with their assistance, just angled the foundation off the cliff side. All that hard work and planning undone with creativity. The DM got his revenge, though. Somehow, the necromancer was able to jump out of the top floor and ninja roll to safety. Damn near killed everyone in my entourage. By the end of it, only 3 of us made it back to Mordek. Totally worth it to shove a tower off a cliff. One of the survivors, Bomber, I know, creative as hell, ended up following me throughout the rest of the campaign. Eventually, he went insane by looking at a cursed mirror. One of the players on our table is playing a Path of the Ancestral Guardian Barbarian. He likes playing a tank archetype and has always enjoyed making sure other players are safe in any game he plays, and this is his first big campaign. What the DM didn't realize at the time was just how much of a nightmare this angry behemoth of a half-elf lady was going to be for him. This player doubled down on having a high AC, A+1 shield, high constitution, high dex, decent strength. The character currently has an AC of 20 and that continues to rise as we level up. We were fighting a horde of gnolls, led by a pack leader, and the barbarian rushed ahead, determined to hold the gnolls back and give openings to the group's spellcasters. The gnolls' turn comes around and they all go to attack her. The barbarian went for about 3 rounds, taking at most 2 points of damage as the gnolls tried and failed to hit her, and those that did were rolling terribly for damage, worsened by rage having all of it. The DM was starting to get annoyed as hell as their attacks just kept failing to do anything beyond a mild tickle, until the pack leader actually rolled somewhat well for damage. The barbarian took 6 points of damage from that hit, the DM said happily. Glad that finally his monsters would do something somewhat noticeable on the walking mass of HP facing his gnolls. And then the barbarian said it. The words that broke the table as players laughed. I used Spirit Shield. Rolled a 10 on the 2d6s. Damage reduced to 0. The Packmaster's glaive was stopped by an ancestor. As the party laughed, all we could hear from the DM as he stood was the tapping of a d4 against a table, compounded by the most exasperated groaning in the history of mankind. In unrelated news, we've been facing more magic enemies recently. Wonder why?